stupid table tennis game because I'm completely addicted to table tennis, and like the physics in it is absolutely amazing, and I literally spent hours playing with my friend. So I think if I had more friends, like wait. Did I just say that out loud?
He just admitted that nobody wants to hang out with John.
Captured in HD.
Yeah. I gotta hope my mates don't see this.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Hey Poor podcast. I am, of course, Jonathan Trussler, Deputy Editor of HeyPoorPlayer.com, and I am here today with Heather.
Hello, here's a sentence to identify my face and voice.
We discussed this beforehand.
Yes,
We're very professional, you see. We do this the right way. And we've got John.
Hello, like Heather's stolen my thunder, so I'm incredibly frustrated about that. But yes, this is my voice and face as well.
Yes, okay. Next up we have Corey.
Konnichiwa, what's up? I'm going to be the most casual of the bunch, because I don't care. Fight the power!
There we
original.
go. That's the more the kind of thing I was looking for. Just enthusiasm. Don't be all meta on me. Okay, anyway, so let's get right into it. So I'm sure a lot of people have been watching the State of Play, and key among the announcements was the announcement of the Resident Evil 4 remake, and now I'm sure there are a lot of strong opinions here. I'd like to start off by saying, in my opinion, I mean, how can you improve on perfection? Resident Evil 4 was one of the best games ever made. Like, I can understand 2 and 3 being remade, but 4, how are they going to top it? How are they going to make it better? How are they going to improve it? What do you think, John? I have a feeling you might be kind of incendiary about this.
Loaded question there, Joe, because you know exactly what I fucking think, like, straight away.
What do you bloody think, John? Come on, get it out. Well, we know you're going to be the one who's going to go all in, you know, fists flying, so let's have it. Come on, let's have it.
Well, like, I think you put number 4 a bit of on a pedestal there. I think it's a great game. I enjoyed it. Is it dated? Maybe it's a little bit dated now. It's been 15 years or so since it was released. It's a little bit campy. I'm not so sure that kind of sits well in 2022, which is why the remakes were so well received, right? I think, in my view, Resident Evil 2 and 3. My prediction is 4 will probably follow a similar vein to 2 and 3, like making it more gritty, making it more serious, better acted, more holistically threaded together narrative, less people in like castles like coming at you and throwing shit at you, less like punching boulders like at the end of Resident Evil 5 as Chris Redfield and his incredible biceps. It's you know, as a mechanic to fight the last boss. I think that's how they improve it, by making it less campy and more realistic, and more gritty, is my view.
Okay, well, interesting thoughts there from John Davis. I'm gonna have to disagree. I think it was the perfect mix of campy and horrifying, because, I mean, one moment you've got somebody just chainsawing Chris in half and he's running for his life. I mean, you need a little bit of levity, you know, just to balance it out, I think. And I think honestly, though, I get that the remakes, I mean, they perhaps, I don't even know that they were. I mean, there was a lot of kind of campy one-liners in Resident Evil 3 remake. There was a lot of kind of flirting with Jill and Carlos. There was a lot of jokes there. I mean, maybe visually not quite as campy, but there is levity to kind of balance it out. And I don't know in that respect how they can really. I mean, maybe the main villain of Resident Evil 4 was a bit mad. This guy, like he's dressed up like he's from the 18th century, and he's a bit.
We love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we do like. Yeah, we do like. Yeah.
But then, I mean,
Just a
Lady
miserable pile of secrets.
Lady Demetrescu. I mean, I guess this is what you want. This is what people want, John. You know,
Giant women.
Yeah. I mean, giant women. And we want them now.
Yes,
we want more giant women.
you want giant
Pictures of
women.
Spider-Man.
Giant women dressed up in old-fashioned clothes and very small men dressed up in old-fashioned clothes. This is what the people want, John. They don't want super serious, okay?
I think the remake's on a completely different track to the sequence series. After the remakes, like I think my prediction is going to be a lot. I mean, the trailer seemed a little bit more serious, a little bit more edgy, a little bit more grounded in comparison to 8. And the less said about 8, the better. Really, like I thought it was okay, right? Okay, that's all I'm going to say about Resident Evil 8, really.
So our game of the year there, John, you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Just okay.
Okay. And it was very difficult. It was very difficult for me to sit and listen to you wax lyrical about it, but I respectfully listened.
Okay, fair enough. I'm sure that was difficult for you. Right, just okay. Why did you think it was just okay?
Well, I don't want to go into too much detail, but I think a game where you get your hand lopped off and then literally reattach it, it's plasticine, doesn't really stick well with me as I'm enjoying this, a game that's simultaneously wanting to build a semi-realistic looking environment. It just felt like it gone from being a horror game to almost like a parody of itself. And it didn't have the atmosphere of Resident Evil 7. I thought Resident Evil 7 was actually pretty good, and I thought the remakes 2 and 3 had really good atmosphere as well. 8 just didn't. It barely registered a pulse for me, really, to be honest. In terms of atmosphere, in terms of laughable narrative. The only thing I enjoyed about it was that it's a Resident Evil game. And shooty things go boom. That's about it.
It almost seems like you don't want to play a Resident Evil game. It feels like you want to play Call of Duty or something super serious.
No. I mean,
super realistic. Other than the fact you can regenerate your health, but yeah. You know
me. I like Silent Hill. I like Silent Hill 1, 2, 4. Don't really like the ones after that. Silent Hill Downpour is an abomination. But 1 to 4 are brilliant. I really like atmospheric horror kind of games, and I know that Silent Hill is more psychological horror than just survival horror. But I think that Resident Evil has just transitioned after number 4 into this action behemoth that's not necessarily. I mean, how realistic is a zombie apocalypse, right? It isn't, because it just hasn't happened and it never will happen. But it just always felt that in the older ones, certainly, it felt more nuanced, and that's just gone in favour of just shenanigans of the highest order.
Shenanigans.
I mean,
sound like an old man.
Really,
I am an old man.
Yeah.
I will say though that there was quite kind of a psychological and even maybe a little bit of an emotional difference between 7 and 8. Just the setting, right? You go from this kind of. I mean, it was gross in 7. And then 8 was kind of okay, this is an interesting place. I actually want to get to know the place better. 7 was I need to leave now. I need to be gone.
You feel the fear.
And 7, it was. I agree with you, Heather. It was really disturbing. You get in there and immediately when you arrive in the Baker household, your wife's found you, and basically she's just lost her head. A little bit, she's just completely lost her head. She's coming at you. She's trying to kill you and all that, and that was really quite disturbing. And obviously, I know I mentioned I had a problem with hands being lopped off, and that did happen in Resident Evil 7. I'm going to give that a pass, right? We're going to
a little more realistic.
But it was a little bit more realistic, because he was there trying to fight her off, and
I just skipped
felt
that part.
and it just
bless
felt
you.
it just felt way more atmospheric, more tense, and 8 lacked the tension. I think that's the thing that I miss. It doesn't have 8 didn't have any tension at all. It just felt silly. It felt really fucking silly.
I feel like Resident Evil 7, where like he's got you strapped to a table, he's got his whole family surrounding him. It's like, you're the new member of the family now, and then you smash him into a wall with a car and says, "Oh, we ain't done yet." I mean, that feels pretty goofy. That feels about equally as goofy to me.
This is from the series that birthed the Jill sandwich line. So
exactly.
In comparison to the tone from the previous games, you have to think about it from the previous games.
I found the Jill sandwich entertaining when I was like 12 years old. When I was like playing it with like my curtains closed, like thinking I was like during the day thinking I was an absolute badass for playing Resident Evil. It was at 18 and I was 12 years old with my curtains closed. And Jill sandwich was funny then. Right, but not anymore. Like mid-30s.
Here's the thing, right? I think a lot of people who played Resident Evil first when they were 12, that they're almost remembering a different game. Like, I mean, the Resident Evil, it's always had funny bits. It's always had silly bits. You know, it's never been like a super duper hardcore psychological horror like Amnesia or Outlast or something. You know, I think Resident Evil is much the same as it's always been, and I think Resident Evil Village is the best of Resident Evil. Bit of levity, a bit of horror, a bit of action. This is what you want. But anyway, I guess we'll have to agree to disagree, John.
Business as usual, then, John.
Yeah, business as usual. Business as usual, I'm afraid.
One Spectrum, 2 Johns.
Yes, indeed.
We're watching 2 sides argue out. Me and Heather are in the middle, like.
Mummy, Daddy, please stop fighting. Oh yeah, or either that or fight.
Inside of me, there are 2 Johns.
Yeah. Either that or we're like Russell Crowe and what's his chops in the arena, you know, and going, well, hey, this is a bit of a laugh. Yeah, there we go. Okay, right. So what have we got? I think, so I think we covered that pretty thoroughly.
If you don't mind, I think we got a good segue into another segment. I did want to talk about the applicability
he wants to say
of adding VR to the sense. I am excited for Resident Evil Village in VR. I'm glad I haven't played it yet because I do want to play it in VR. I will say 7 in VR, one of the most terrifying experiences I've had.
Oh, it was amazing. It was unbelievably scary.
It scared the shit out of me. I remember the first time I saw him literally walk through the wall Nemesis style, I about shat a brick as I ran. That was what I wanted. I missed that fear, that the getting the heart pressure up. I'm glad to see that more games are seeing this transition to VR because it is becoming more and more applicable. And it's doing wonders for the games. And I'm sure 8 will be just as fun for me in all its campiness compared to the seriousness of 7, which is fine with me because I like seeing you go from a serious, you go to campy, maybe, water back and forth from game to game. You get a little bit of best of both worlds, but I think the VR applicability is gonna really increase its shelf life. It's gonna make it feel like a fresher game. And that's why I kind of wanted to talk about this, because I think we should go into our next one of our other topics, John, about VR.
Yes. Okay. Well, please introduce the next topic.
Well, I think Heather was the one that brought it up, so I think she should
Heather, please.
Get her vote.
You were the one doing the segue.
It was a good.
You got the ball. It's like you got the ball, but then you're not passing it. You know?
No. I put the train on the tracks. I want her to drive the train.
you put the train on the tracks, but you got to hit the switch before it goes off a cliff.
He set it up. And someone else knocks it down. That's how this game works.
Okay, all right. Well, before we mix,
talk about VR already.
Before we mix any more metaphors, before we throw a wrench in the monkey house, yes, let Heather please introduce the next topic.
That's a new one.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
He's like, okay, so I was on game dev Twitter, and one of my friends posited a really interesting question. This was a while ago, where he said, for everyone that has like a VR headset, do you play it as often as some of your other consoles or PC? And if not, why? And it was kind of funny how often everyone that answered that was like, no, I don't really play it that much anymore, was because my Beat Saber mods keep breaking. And like, that was my reason. Like, I want to play it, but like, oh my gosh, I've got to wait for like, Beat Saber did an update, so now the Beat Saber mods are like furiously like trying to fix like their mods, like the mods fix the mods. So and that was possibly something really interesting, which was, I feel like in 2015, 16, we were kind of talking about, okay, what's next, VR or AR, like what's going to really take off. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, I would love to revisit, like, well, did what we predict, like, did it come true? Like, I know I had my own thoughts of it, which was, I didn't think VR was going to take off consistently. Like, people would buy the technology, but it wouldn't become like a huge, huge, huge mainstay because it's so prohibitively expensive for a lot of people. I did think AR was going to be bigger because everyone's got a phone. I thought more developers would kind of develop for AR, but I mean, we've seen like nothing of that. So that was just kind of an interesting thought, was, why, if we still have all these VR stuff, do we use it? Do we really use it like we thought we would? Was it worth kind of the cost?
I have a thought that springs to mind of that. Yeah, so VR is something that is about to take off. It's been about to take off since like the 90s, like the early 90s even. The Virtual Boy and God knows what else. Lawnmower Man. But yeah, I think one reason it's never really become saturated is because it's very involved, To play a VR game, you've got to like put the headset on, get the controllers, make sure there's like space around you, for whatever you're going to do. And also, you're also very involved. It means if somebody's kind of yelling at you for dinner, like you might be too busy being in your virtual world or something. It's not something you can really kind
grandma, when you're
exactly. Get away from me, grandma.
Being your grandma. Well, notice how many times I've almost clocked my cat.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's very involved. It's almost like you almost have to kind of make a date with it. Whereas a normal game, it's just like, oh yeah, I fancy a couple of rounds of this. And just sit down, and then you're not totally removing yourself from the reality around you. It's a lot easier to start and stop. Yeah. And maybe that's a big part of the reason. What do you guys think?
I think...
Oh, go.
You go on.
Okay, appreciate it. As somebody that has owned a PSVR and a Rift S, I can say that a lot of it is the setup. It's a pain in the ass because you have to go get all the cords unstrung. You have to make sure you're not going to trip on the son of a bitch while you're using it, because I can tell you right now I've done that a couple of times, getting that cord tangled up on myself. And even if you do have a wireless set, you still have to make sure the battery's charged. You have to make sure the batteries and the controllers are charged. It is a lot of setup. And it's unfortunate because there's a lot of moving parts on this and a lot of shit you can break in the process as well. And that's not a cheap fix. I have 2 Rift S controllers that are breaking right now, and they're $150 a pop for left or right, not left and right. They're expensive. A lot of the expense is replacement parts. And for me, too, I also have prescription lenses that I have to order special lenses to put in my VR unit. So you have even more cost setting. So for a lot of people like myself that have horrible-ass vision, it just becomes a giant time sink and a giant money sink. But that said, once we start making more movements to better battery charge, better made equipment, more wireless technology, I feel like it's going to start leaving its niche and start becoming a seriously thought about thing. You have prices go down because you have better equipment at hand, better components. You have more games that are embracing it. And that's another thing too, is I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I have a very large VR library. So anytime I want to get up and get around, I have enough room that I can work with, and you'd be surprised at how little room you can still make a game work with, as long as you don't leave anything breakable near you, including your animals or your family.
Don't break your animals.
Don't break them.
Don't break your family.
Yeah, don't clock grandma because you thought you were punching a monster.
So I don't know, like I've got a Quest 2, so it's wireless, and I've got a 5G 5 gigahertz router, so I've got it completely wireless, and I can play it anywhere within, I think it's 40 feet or something like that, with like next to little or no latency. And I think what John was saying was right. Like, I just can't be asked. Like, it's a commitment, like, to put your headset on, strap in and play like a fully immersive and interactive game. And like, people were like thinking it's like, the nirvana, the pinnacle of video games, like, to go there and like physically run around and like kind of do stuff. But it's actually like, for me, I can't be asked. It's too dangerous as well, because like, I don't have a lot of space. This room that I'm in is tiny. I can take it downstairs in the living room, but I got 2 dogs and a cat, and like every time I start, like, literally, if I'm playing like I don't know, Beat Saber, or if I'm doing like the boxing game that I can't remember the name of, the Rocky one, basically, like, my dogs just start jumping at me and like you know what I mean, like getting excited sort of thing, because they just don't know what I'm doing. So I think those are the main 2 things for me: the effort required, because like you can just slide into your PC or couch downstairs, get your controller around, blast a few rounds of whatever it is you want to play, or if you're on your PC or Switch or whatever, it's just more convenient, I think. So that's why it's not quite. We're at this cusp of like, being told repeatedly, this is going to be VR's big year. The PSVR 2 is coming out. It's going to really take off, and I'm not convinced.
It's just been the big year for so long, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I agree with John entirely. It is still a big commitment issue, and it takes a lot of time, which is a shame, because there are some great experiences to be had. I'm thinking about personally investing in a B-haptic suit so I can get the full VR immersion experience.
Holy shit.
Wow.
I've already got some of the money saved up for it. I'm going to pick it up because I want to see how far this rabbit hole goes. I've seen people use this.
Are you going to get the little treadmill as well? Do you know those things
where
they got like
I would love to. I would love to. I want the full dive experience. If you could tell me I could smell the game, I would be like, hell yeah, let's put the money down. Let's do this.
You'll be in the Oasis by the end of the year then.
Yeah, I'd go inside that fishbowl and you'd never fucking see me again. I'm gone. But jeez. I think as the technology will progress, it will become worth the investment. Like I said, if you get cheaper parts, you can spend, imagine being able to spend $400 and get a full haptic suit and there you go. You have a whole new experience. Yes, is it still pain? Kinda. Is it still going to take time? Yes. But as the technology keeps progressing and progressing and progressing, I think people that are looking for the real, big enthusiast, I'm going to set a time to do this, are going to be like, holy shit, this is next gen. This is incredible. Some people are easily impressed by it. Some are not. I can absolutely understand both sides.
I think there's 2 other things.
Yeah, go on.
That need to happen for VR to become to get its killer app, as it were. So I think like there needs to be a mass market like game that like instantaneously grabs everybody and moves it away from the enthusiast scene. So obviously I really like Beat Saber. I've got Half-Life Alyx. I've played all of them, and I still don't think it's quite enough. Like, it's not quite a AAA experience in VR, like a AAA game. And I think until we get to that point where there's something that is comfortable to play, because that's another thing I failed to mention as well. Like, I get motion sickness sometimes when I get in VR because I'm just weak, and I think they need to smooth that out as well. But I mean, if they can get a comfortable AAA experience in VR, I think that'll be certainly one thing that will really help elevate it. But the second thing is, like, I think business. as well. Like when businesses start to utilize and leverage like VR, I think the prohibitive element of VR, like in terms of cost, will start to come down quite a bit as well, because they're experimenting in the business space, like with conferencing and things like that with VR as well. So if they manage to get that to a point where like you can actually hold conferences and conversations in VR, I think that might drive adoption, because the actual cost of manufacturing headsets will come down because there's a market there to mass produce them.
So, as John was saying, with the applicability of the tools of VR, I saw where you could do 3D modeling with VR controllers, and it was actually really easy and intuitive experience. As I started doing it, I had no experience with it before. It was so fluid and easy to use. And I think more tools, as they come onto the VR unit, like you said, drop the price, increase the tools, we're going to see more and more people utilizing this technology.
That's what I mean, like if you get it to a point where it's easy to manufacture, like, it's the same with, televisions back in the day, right? LCD televisions, like you would make like 3 televisions and at least one of them would break because of the manufacturing process of making HD TVs. So that's why they were so expensive, because of how difficult it was to manufacture. So like the principle of mass market, I think, will definitely be a gateway because into VR, because people will just end up having them in their household. So I think it's like there's a combination of factors as to why I don't use mine. I don't think enough of my friends use it. Because one of the games I play the most on VR is this stupid table tennis game, because I'm completely addicted to table tennis, and like the physics in it is absolutely amazing, and I literally spent hours playing with my friend. So I think if I had more friends, like, wait, did I just say that out loud?
Here's a minute that nobody wants to hang out with John.
Captured in HD.
Yeah. I gotta hope my mates don't see this. But if I had more friends that had VR headsets, that would be great, because I'd have more people to lose that table tennis to.
Yeah, that's another thing that he brought up that I didn't think about either, is having friends to play, because I know one of the games that I play a lot is Phasmophobia. I pop on there a lot. And that's incredibly fun to play with friends.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it really is.
Fucking horrified.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I want to do that with the B-haptic suit, because they do have B-haptics.
Can I toss out?
Yes,
what kind of B-haptics do Poltergeist skip, just out of interest?
Shivers down your fucking spine. I want this game to scare the hell out of me, and I actually...
How do you simulate a B-haptic, like, shiver down your spine? Like,
I don't know. I don't know. I don't ask these questions. I'm just curious about what it's going to do.
Vibrates a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, it's got a bunch of vibrational sensors all over it, so little bitty sensors go down your spine as a ghost proceeds to tickle you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really my pants.
Oh dear.
Oh wait, I am.
Oh dear. Well, I hope people don't start enjoying these horror games too much. The ghosts tickling them. Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we know what's next.
Yeah, well, we know. Yeah, it's always one step behind, barely a step behind.
Change subject.
Yeah, I was going to talk about what do people think about the intersection between AR and VR. Now, I don't know if anyone else has seen this, but I've seen these kind of cool... Oh, this is on Kickstarter, so it might be bollocks, but just hear me out. So it's these glasses that you wear over your face, and you can play games on them, like it's right in front of your eyes. But you can also kind of do your social media and stuff on them and watch movies.
Kind of like Google Glasses.
Wasn't there a Star Trek
Google
Next
Glasses,
Generation episode, like when that happened and they took over the Enterprise?
Yes, and then Riker was playing some weird kind of game, and he's this is better than anything.
You can sense power levels, right? Someone's over 9,000.
Yeah, so basically it's AR and VR kind of all into one magical package, and it looks kind of like just a pair of glasses is a little less unwieldy than a massive, great thump VR kind of thing. Do you think that will be kind of the future? Just sort of this all-in-one AR, VR glasses, perhaps?
Yeah, definitely. Like, because like wearing a VR headset, you feel a bit of a dickhead, don't you? Like, not to put like too fine a point on it. Like, it's like I've got this enormous piece of like plastic on my face, and I think like when I successfully manage to like not necessarily miniaturize it, but like reduce the size of it certainly, and then have that hybrid of like AR, VR, where you're able to like go around and like get bombarded with advertisements as you like walk down the street, then like sit down and then play a game.
That's what's going to happen, right? So, like, say there'll be areas in real life that kind of companies will buy up as AR ad space. So, like, say they could have this like little corridor in a shopping center or a pub or whatever, and as soon as you walk in, you'll get targeted advertisements from that particular.
It will go off. It'll buzz you, and like there's loads of stuff here, and then like you also perhaps pay a subscription.
And you have to kind of flick it out the corner of your eye.
And there'll be like a space where you can pay and like not get any advertising, like a bit like YouTube.
It's gonna turn into a Black Mirror episode before long. It already is.
Oh, I did
like the idea.
Sorry, go
ahead.
I did appreciate that about Pokemon Go when I was back in 2016 was in Paris, and like we don't have in the US we don't really walk around a lot unless you're like in a big city like New York. No, we don't walk around a lot unless we're in a car. No.
Yes, what's that?
No, so like it was really cool to have Pokemon Go open and be like, oh, there's a Pokestop over here because there's this cool piece of art over here, because there's like a cool fountain over here. So it was like you got to really kind of explore the area using the technology. And so thinking like, oh, like, you put on these glasses, there's going to be like, ad space here in the virtual world that isn't here in the real world. First of all, I think was the plot of Beyond Chronos. And then second, like, that's just a really cool idea. Like, like if there's like a bunch of ad stuff and like, okay, I'm just not gonna wear my glasses. Like now I have this ad-free, like, realistic experience, but the virtual world is just chock full of ads. Cool. I'm not gonna wear those. But it's still a really cool idea. Like, I think that would make more sense than like, basically what is still taping a virtual boy to your head. Like,
so get away from it.
I like the idea, but I do worry because of the fact that people like me, I have to have these things on. My visual acuity is actually in the negatives. I worry about technology like that being missed out on for people like me because I have to have prescription lenses. Will that technology accommodate for that? Do I have to go talk to a specific person to get a inlay over it so that my prescription fits on those glasses? And how much more money does that cost me? And it's annoying, but what can you do about it? Sometimes it's genetic. Sometimes you just, as we were talking about earlier, blind yourself with TVs and sit 2 feet away from them and cause these issues. I'm not guilty at all.
I mean, glasses are common enough. Like, obviously, I don't wear glasses, so I'm lucky in that regard. Like, so I can't really empathise too much. But like, they're common enough. I'm sure they'd make accommodations for that to ensure equal opportunities of getting yourself rinsed by virtual advertising spaces in AR. Like, so you just
it takes.
And then think about it. They make money out of you.
Yeah.
They're a commodity.
They'll give it to you for free if they can play ads at you all day.
Yeah. No, I agree with you because I've worn glasses since I was 5. I mean, I'm wearing contacts now, but like, it's funny because I didn't know there was prescription lenses for your VR headset because I just put it over my glasses. Like,
I tried to do that with the PSVR and it's so uncomfortable. It hurt my head so bad after a while that eventually I looked it up because I wanted to get a Rift S and I wanted to make use of the fact that I got this beefy rig downstairs. But yeah, I had the problem of I can't see anything like that. Granted, it was pretty fun having my friend try to guide me through the Elder Scrolls through Skyrim without my glasses on. I told him, try and guide me as far as you can without my glasses on. This is going to be fucking fun.
Okay, so Lydia's standing in the doorway.
And you killed a guard. Well, here we go. But no, I looked up, I think it was like the VR optician, and I'm sure there's a couple of other people that make prescription lenses that, for my Rift S, all I had to do was pop out the thing you clean. There's a little like tab that you pop out and it'll take out the exterior thing that you usually clean and you pop the sockets in and it's prescription grade. I can see just like I can normally. And that's why I like
really
to see.
Cool.
It is. It was fascinating, and I'm glad that it was so easy to put in. I'm just hoping that if we get these AR glasses, it's just as easy as, maybe putting on a layer on the front of it, kind of like a protective screen.
I can't imagine.
I don't think so. Sorry, go on.
Well, I was just going to say, I can't imagine if they're glasses, knowing what glasses are for already, I can't imagine them being like, yeah, we're not going to make them for people who literally can't see. Like, the one market of people who are already used to wearing this device on their face, like, no, not for them. Like, I'm sure it will
I don't
be
think
made
it'd be a
for
separate product. I think it would be like, you get your pair of glasses, like, everyone will wear, like, some sort of glasses, but, like, they'd be like, you'd wear them all the time and then, like, like, kind of do a gesture or something like that, like, and it would, like, switch off advertising mode or switch off AR mode, and then you'd just be like, oh, I'm wearing glasses and I'm walking down the street, and then you do, like, a gesture and it's like, oh, here we go, I can see, like, everything in the AR world again. So I almost think it would be intrinsic.
It'd be like a better version of Google Maps as well, right? Rather than having to keep looking down at your phone when you're trying to find your way around.
Oh yeah, I can tell you right now, having wearable technology is nice. My manager actually got me to buy a Galaxy Watch, and I didn't realize how much that stuff is useful until you are living your life without it. I used to have to read a road atlas to go anywhere because I can't look at my phone while I'm friggin' driving. I have to go look at it ahead of time to figure out where the hell I'm going. Now I just look down at my wrist. And I know that level of intuity will come with those AR glasses. I think that'll be an absolutely great thing to have.
The worst thing about a road atlas is folding it back up again. Then you end up folding it in the opposite direction.
You're doing it the old-fashioned way. You got to get the big book. My grandpa was a trucker, and he had this huge friggin' book that is the road atlas. And he taught me how to read that thing when I was younger, so I know how to navigate without any GPS. But it's a pain. And you will get lost. And it also does not do the thing that Google does and tell you where the road construction is.
Well, as is millennial tradition, we just print off MapQuest directions.
That's viable too. I used to do that sometimes.
Right. Well, okay. So, VR.
That's a good one. That's a good topic.
Potentially an exciting future, perhaps with a smaller form factor. Okay, so moving on, we have a lot of events coming up. The Steam Fest, the Summer Games Fest. A lot of fests are going on. Is there anything that people are looking out for in the upcoming fests?
I just want to see more Steam Decks shipped. I want to get a Steam Deck, but I'm not going to pay scalper prices to get one.
Same.
I'm getting mine in July to August, apparently, according to my Steam order page.
Oh.
I envy you. I want one.
I'm like, I think I'm looking forward to it. It'll be another bit of kit, that I'll have, but like, just I'm not that bothered by it. I just bought it because it's like, I don't know, I take my laptop everywhere with me. I've got a Razer Blade, and that kind of goes with me. And like, obviously, it's a much bigger form factor than that. But I have a Switch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And most of the games that I like to play on Switch are already on Steam anyway. There might be like one or two, like indie games that are specifically on Steam that I'd like to pay. But then I'd just take my laptop, so I would ship it to you. When I get it. But I'm presuming you've got a pre-order, right?
Do you have a pre-order?
No, do you have a pre-order? Like, that's what I'm asking.
I don't. I didn't have the money at the time.
Damn.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, I'm going to pay scalper prices at some point here, trying to get a hold of one of these sons of bitches later.
Just hate scalpers. Like, they're awful
people. The PS5 was a pain in my ass. And somebody had this little deal where I can sign up to get, they send me an offer. It's like, hey, go to the store. You won't have to deal with scalpers, and you can go buy one. I'm like, why isn't anyone else doing this? Why couldn't I have done this to get a 3080?
I mean, I'm still looking for a PS5. I'm just not looking very.
You still not got one?
No. I'm in LA. Do you know how many people are here? Do you know how many people I am fighting?
He's got LA. I had Chicago stealing mine.
Jeez.
I must be a fucking unicorn or something, because I got within the space of 3 months, I got the 3080, the PS5, and the Xbox Series X. The
Xbox you can find, but though 3080 PS5 no.
I haven't been able to find a 3080 for under like $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I'd love to make an upgrade for my 1080 Ti, I struggle to find any around here that aren't sold by some fishy dude on a Facebook marketplace.
You should have said I just sold my 3080 because I bought a 3080 Ti.
I wanted one!
Bloody hell, John! Is that how short your cycle is? I just bought a 30. Oh, I've got to get a 3080 Ti. That's ridiculous.
If you're ever selling off your crap, keep us in mind. Apparently, it comes and goes with you like a freaking waterfall.
Wait, at least like a couple of iterations, you know? Jeez.
I just it's a vanity thing. I'm an awful man. I just saw the opportunity to get it, and at the time, just before they dropped in price, because they've dropped in price now, you can get them because the stock is there now. But just before they dropped in price, I worked for a company that basically our technology stops scalpers. We're there to stop scalpers, and we have a threat research team that researches what's going on in the scalping world and what's going to be scalped next. And I had some insider knowledge that the 3080 was going to plummet in value because more were going to come on stream. So I was like, this is a perfect time to buy the 3080 Ti, and I bought it and then sold my 3080 for, I think I sold it for 1,100 quid. So yeah.
What, about $1,400 in US, I think?
Yeah, something like that.
You say you're a terrible man, and yet you fight scalpers.
Oh yeah, there's that. Yeah,
he's an anti-hero, a flawed hero.
Yeah, there you go.
I just kind of game the system a little bit.
He's the hero.
Well, now that we know John's
he's a white guy with short brown hair, so obviously he's a video game protagonist.
That's the white guy with short brown hair.
But he's a hero, but he's got a bit of an edge. Yeah, a bit of a dark history. Dark
shady backstory.
There we go. All you need is a glass of whiskey with some ice in it or something to brood over.
There you go, Heather. Your company's got its next game, the origin story of John.
Yeah.
Let me text Heather so she can get me a whiskey right now. Not you, the other Heather. My Heather.
I learned. 2 Johns and 2 Heathers.
So yeah, it is bizarre actually when you think about it. So Steam Next Fest, what is everyone looking forward to? I don't know.
I actually don't know what all is planned for. Well, that's the thing. You
right? They haven't released it yet, but I have a trailer up from Steam. So they've just kind of showcasing a few of the games, and some that I really was interested in. A lot of them, are coming from Devolver because they're gloriously insane. So there was Cult of the Lamb, which it's been kind of announced for a while. It looks really interesting. I mean, anything that's kind of it's cute, but it's a cult. That just looks fun. And then Angerfoot, which looks ridiculous. It looks like kind of an FPS game, but you also have your foot and you're kicking things. I don't know. It just looks so silly. And Skate Story, which is one that Andrew, I think, did a write-up for it on the site, looked really cool. It's kind of this really pretty kind of trippy game, but it's a skateboard game. Yeah, that one looks really interesting. Really want to play that one. So yeah, go Devolver again.
I think The Evil Below is one game I saw on the Steam Next Fest that looked kind of interesting. So it basically looks like Resident Evil Village. Sorry to bring up that again.
Here we go again.
But better. Basically, it's I'm just reading the description here, so I'm going to quote it verbatim. Evil Below is a first-person horror adventure game that combines horror elements with unique puzzle solving and stealth. The game centers around a mother searching for a son in a semi-open world landscape filled with never-ending forests, abandoned villages, and claustrophobic caverns. In this world, several creatures made these lands their territory, and you are their prey.
Is it gritty enough for you, John?
It looks pretty bloody gritty to me, John.
Nothing silly. We don't want anything
It's
silly.
like, I'm watching a video here, and there's a bloke here that's just like got a horrible mask on his face, and he's stamping on me. He's got hands like here on his shoulders, hands there on his abdomen, and he's got 2 hands there, and he's looking rather intimidating. So yeah, that. I mean, it's not a tall lady, and that's a tall order, but
he's got 6 pairs of hands.
yeah, that's what I mean. You know, like, what more do you want, John?
Yeah,
6 hands,
geez,
mate.
knows what they can do. Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah. So I thought that looked interesting. What else looked interesting? I saw Thief Simulator 2 as well. I played the first one in VR, and I quite enjoyed that. Not that I have a penchant for breaking and entering, but I thought that was an interesting concept as a game. So I'd be intrigued to see how they evolve that. And whether it's going to be in VR or not, because they originally did it not in VR, and then they did the VR port afterwards when the application for VR was obvious. So that's going to be demoed during Steam Next Fest, so I might check that out as well. But besides that, Gun Fu Fighter as well. It kind of looked a little bit like Super Hot, but like. Actually, it looks exactly like Super Hot, but like with less red men and more black and white men instead, with like some stylistic, like film noir style, like combat. So, might have a look at that.
Kind of like Super Hot and Seafood, kind of a little bit.
Yeah, kind of.
That sounds fun.
I'm intrigued. I haven't seen too much about it. I watched the trailer a little bit earlier, and I'm just looking at the page now. But yeah, those 3. Tickled my fancy.
Nice.
Any more for any more?
Right, it's tickled your
I can't
fancy
find
like a
the
VR
list.
ghost. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not an expert on that. You have to ask Corey.
Get your haptic feedback suit on.
Yeah, full dive, man.
I mean, maybe in the future that's what you'll be. You'll even be watching a trailer and it'll just activate your haptic feedback. Ooh.
I can feel Jeff Keighley shouting at me.
Yeah. I can feel Todd Howard lying to me. I can feel Peter Molyneux being overly optimistic. Oh dear, I could go on. I'm here all night, folks. Right.
The jug that keeps on giving.
Yeah. Oh dear. I could make a weight joke about Gabe Newell, but I'm not going to. Oh dear.
In front of our Lord and Savior.
Yes. Oh, sorry, Gabe.
Just for that, he's going to release another Steam sale. Way to go. Like, now all our money is gone.
Thanks, dude.
These wallets
I've got more in my bloody back catalogue. I'm never going to make my way through it.
Seriously.
That's a mood. That's a mood and a half right there.
Heather heard me, and she's actually bought me whiskey. She's actually bought me whiskey.
Trick. That was a fucking Benedict trick right here.
You gotta put a ring on that, John. Bloody hell.
Don't you worry. In 3 months, mate, I will be. But yes. yeah. That is. Oh, listen, that's comic timing, genius.
If that don't make it at the front part of the video, I'm
you
gonna
gotta
be
look
upset.
really sullen,
That was
John.
perfect.
Don't look so excited. You gotta be sullen. I hate scalpers. I want to kill scalpers. You gotta be like that Final Fantasy Origins guy. I hate chaos. I kill chaos. I hate
You gotta hate
scalpers.
scalpers, and it's gonna look like you're telling the kids to get off your lawn.
Scalpers are bad. This is really nice. This seems to be my telescope.
You know what it reminded me of was just the part in Pirates. The character was like, bloody pirates. Like, that's what you sounded like.
You're gonna kill him. There he goes.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that reminded me of the best copy. Talking of pirates, the best copy protection method ever made. In
Fire of the Dragon.
In the
What a
game,
segue.
in the game Dev Tycoon.
Yes.
If you have
Yeah.
a pirated version of the game, You'll just receive a little notification that says, you're starting to lose profits because some people are pirating your game. And then you'll lose more and more and more profits from people pirating your game until eventually you just lose. And it's
At
just
that point, I'd probably be mad. I'd be laughing.
Wow.
I wouldn't really be mad.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. It's really brilliant, but I will say that it kind of backfired a little bit on them, because if you download the game just to play it, right? Like you do pirate it, and then later you're like, okay, I just wanted a demo. Like I really just wanted a demo. Like I'm gonna go buy it now. Your paid version does not overwrite your pirated version. So like you'll lose even in the paid version. Like I don't know if that's still a problem, but I was Googling it and that was a problem that some people were experiencing. So maybe they fixed it, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you pirate even one game, Heather, even one, you deserve to burn in hell. Just like, uncompromising.
You wouldn't download Game Tycoon, would you? Yes.
Well, I mean, Heather, you are a game dev, so I'm sure you know
by osmosis.
No, okay. Here's something I'm interested in. So, from a games dev's perspective, what's your kind of perspective on dealing with piracy and whatnot?
So the pragmatic in me is like, it's just going to be par for the course. You're going to have people who are going to download it. You're going to have people like illegally. You're going to have people who are going to, I'm in the mobile game sphere, so I'm one of those people. But you have people who are going to download every single like currency. Like, okay, like I'm just going to like negate all the time gates with this stuff. I'm not going to pay for a penny. I'm pragmatic. It's just going to happen. But at the same time, it's like, realistically, you do have to kind of recognize as like a gamer that if it is pirated, like I'm not paying for it, these people who, are making this product that I enjoy won't be able to pay their bills and therefore won't be able to maintain this product that I enjoy. Like at some point you have to give money to them.
Yes.
So, and at the same time, like I'm also really big on game preservation. So like a lot of games that, like the 3DS, like the DS, like, they're shutting down the marketplace. Those games, some of them are just going to be gone, right? And there's not going to be a way to really access them. Like if you haven't, like, I have little brothers who are just now getting into the 3DS. Like, oh, okay, well, maybe they won't be able to get the Ace Attorney series very easily on the platform it was intended to play on. What are they going to do? I guess they could, there are some that it's like, okay, you can play it on Steam, but not the 3DS digital exclusives with Athena. So my personal philosophy is like, if I can buy it, I'm going to go buy it. But if it's not available anywhere, yeah, I'm probably going to download it if I really want to play it. But I'm going to like, talk about it. Like I'm going to like tweet about it, or like I'm going to make a review on it if I can, or an article. Like I want to be able to help them. But that's kind of where I'm at, is like, it's going to happen. Like it's just going to happen. Like I can't prevent it. I've seen it happen in my own game, like many times. Like you'll go on YouTube and you'll say like, here's how to download Terra Genesis like free or whatever, and I'm like, cool, like it's already a free game, like it's already free, like you can just go, like, but no, they have like the APK mods and it's like cool, but
it's got to be like a double-edged sword, because it's like, oh wow, there's people really interested in my game and they're not paying.
It's you have to, I think you just kind of have to offset like where you can for the people who are going to play it legitimately, where it's like, okay, like I'm not going to make this a complete cash grab, like and our game really isn't. Like ads, you don't have to, I mean, first of all, in mobile games, I just want to stress, you don't have to watch a goddamn ad no matter what. Okay, like just turn your phone in airplane mode if you're on like iPhone. Like you'll never get an ad. Like that's just common sense. But at the same time, like our game, you seriously don't have to watch an ad. There's never a point where it'll be like, you know, a surprise ad. We do this thing where you tap on the ad button. It says like, hey, if you watch an ad, you're going to get a boost. You're going to get some currency. You're going to get whatever. Do you want to watch it? Yes or no? And you can say no. And you'll never watch an ad. So it's like those kinds of things. It's like if you make the game better for the player experiencing it, maybe they won't feel the need to like download everything, you know? Like, so that's kind of my philosophy there with the development part.
I think it leads into a wider like phenomenon. I think like specifically around like pirated content in general. So there's been an uptick in piracy over the last couple of years as I guess like streaming like platforms have like effectively got greedy. You know, they've dissected their own content up and then launched like, you know, subscription services, you know, like Paramount Plus, for instance, Netflix, Amazon, Stars. And it's got everyone's doing some sort of, you know, streaming service now. And it's like, well, I can't possibly afford to like watch all this content on all of these platforms because of like how prohibitive the cost is. And I think like to some extent, like as video games have become more expensive to produce. I'm speaking from like a semi-informed position, so correct me if I'm wrong here, Heather, because you obviously know this, you work in the industry. But like when I look at like Sony like charging like £70 or I think it's like, is it $80 in the US? I don't know, for their like, you know, first party titles.
70, yeah, I could be wrong though. I haven't bought any PS5 games.
Sorry to rub it in, and like my bad. But
yeah,
like,
you're right. It's about 70.
It's like
brand new.
That is mental. Like how much that is. I mean, like I know that like developers like need, you know, funds, but I think like as video games, like, it's always been a business, right? It's always been like a revenue stream, but it's like kind of transcended what it was in the past, like a medium that like entertained people and marveled and like encapsulated people, and it kind of felt like a little bit. I felt like a little bit naive about video games, whereas like I think video games have kind of grown up and like they're now this like commercial behemoth now that like makes exorbitant sums of money, and as a consequence you need to market that and mass produce that, and that costs a lot of money and you have to raise the price of it. And I think by doing that you're setting yourself up, I think, in my view, for getting pirated for the same principle as talking about the streaming services.
So I mean, streaming services, I think, are, in my opinion, like they're just a completely different behemoth, because it's like, I agree with you. The market is just way too segmented in terms of like everyone's got a different launcher. I think we went through this with game stuff where it's like, okay, I've got my Steam launcher, I've got, you know, Blizzard.
Origin.
Yeah, so it's like we were at the beginning like, no, we're going to have like 2 launchers max. Like I have Steam, itch.io. I maybe sometimes do Epic just for the free game. That's it. Like, but so with games and with that, I agree with you that I think we understand that the games industry is, you know, it's making a lot of money. I think someone said that, and I need to fact check this, but like the UK games industry makes more money than the UK fishing industry. I mean, that's nuts.
That's fact. That's a fact.
Games are more important than food.
Even after we left the EU, I mean, it's supposed to be paradise after.
Well, this is
they were holding us back.
Sorry to like cut you off midstream, Heather. And I really want to make this point. Actually, it's like the UK fishing industry comprises of 0.1% of our GDP, whereas video games like contribute something like 5-6% of GDP. Yeah, like when the Brexit. Sorry to get Brexity, because I just can't help myself. It's a bit like the capital insurrection. Like, no doubt you'd probably get passionate about that. Like with Brexit, you heard about fishing all the time, but like there was no mention of the video games industry and how being cut off from the EU would like cripple transfer of skill, between studios, and people think video games are just this thing that does stuff, and they're enormous entertainment. It's enormous entertainment industry now, enormous.
But that's because, like, we as millennials, I do think some Gen Xers, like the younger ones, understand. I think millennials definitely understand. Zoomers are going to understand it for sure. But anyone above that, they don't really. It doesn't register. My dad's straight. He is a boomer. Like, that's his generation. He was like talking to me about Markiplier the other day, and he was like, oh, like this guy just talks to kids about video games. Why doesn't he get a real job? I'm like, Dad, he makes money. My dad's a doctor.
Real job.
Yeah, and I'm like, Dad, my dad's a doctor, and I'm like, Dad, he makes money that you and I will never see. Like, we are not going to see the. Do you know whose house that he bought recently? Like, he's not. He has a job. Like, this is his job, and he just kind of was like, oh, are you serious? And that's the thing, is that anyone above the age of like what, like 40, 45, it's kind of like, I don't know. It might be a case-by-case basis of whether or not they know how much money the games industry as a whole makes, which is ironic because game developers, like game people who work in the field, don't make as much money as people might think. It's generating all of this money. It's not necessarily going to the people that are making it.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So in game dev Twitter, I mean, if you guys ever are just like, I don't know if you're on Twitter, but that's kind of where a lot of the game devs kind of congregate. And there was a doc that was passed around last year where everyone was like, we're going to anonymously share our salaries, just so that people can kind of, use this to leverage, like, hey, I'm going to go to my company and ask for more money type thing. And you guys, no one's making money in game dev. Like, you could go get a better job at a different company for developers, marketers especially. Oh my gosh. But like, no one's making money. I don't know how people are paying bills.
Yeah, and then you've got like crunch time as well, which is borderline legal sometimes.
This is the thing, right? You do your job, right? And obviously, you're a marketer just like me, right? We're both in content, and like, you do your job because you love it, right? I love video games, and if I ever got into the video game industry, like that would be a passion for me, because I'm a gamer through and through, and I always have been. So, and they exploit that. They exploit how you feel about games, like, in order to pay you like shit. Like,
exploiting passion. It's not right.
Yeah, and everyone like knows this, right? And like, thank God, like, I work for a company that they recognize this, and they're like, okay, no, that's not cool. We're going to pay people what they're worth. So like, I feel comfortable where I'm at, but like, I know that people who are working for some of the bigger companies are getting paid less than me for the same job. Yeah. So where this money is going, I mean, shareholders, yes, probably, it's not going to us. So it's frustrating to see that gaming is such a behemoth in terms of just its industry, and yet the people who make them.
I'm interested to hear what you think about like the kind of like raft of acquisitions that are going on. Like, I don't know if we talked about this in a previous podcast, but I found that very interesting. What's been going on? Like, there's this almost like, it's a bit like how in the food industry, there's like everything's manufactured by like 5-6 companies like in the world, right? And gaming is increasingly kind of becoming that way. You've got Microsoft, which is like going around acquiring every game studio it possibly can, and then Sony obviously bought Bungie for was it $4.1 million, something like that? I don't know. Like,
poor old Bungie are just being passed around like a hot potato, I'm old enough to remember when Bungie exclusively made Mac games. And I remember Marathon and all these funny, weird, quaint little shareware games I made. And I just thinking, I just can't, just when I look at them, I can't even fathom that they made like Destiny or the Halo series. It's just unimaginable. And now they're owned by Sony. It's crazy.
Right. That's actually so I mean, take this for what you will. I'm not like, like a researcher or anything in this. This is just kind of some observations, just being in it. But think about how like video games kind of started. Like Atari itself was like, not this like shining like innovation of like business. It was literally like tinkering around as an engineer trying to figure, I mean, so when with video games, like it's often starts off very humbly. Rare even was it two brothers who just kind of innovated Donkey Kong? That's so many stories are like this. I am just a guy or a couple of guys, and I'm going to make a game, and it's something that I'm going to do in my spare time, or I'm going to throw, a year into it, but it's not the main job. It is bad advice to tell someone to quit their job and go be a game dev. You do it on the side. If your game takes off, then you can do something about it. And the rate at which that happens outpaces the amount of viable companies that bigger companies can swallow. There are so many games being released. There are so many solo indie devs. There are so many 2-people game dev companies. They are so small, and they're releasing fantastic games, right? Because they don't have any people to answer to. They don't have, their bills aren't riding on this game. They have a main job to kind of pay those bills, so they can take these chances. So we're getting these amazing games. Someone takes notice, they publish it, or they buy them out. The cycle continues. So it's just, and we're going to see a lot of it as tools become easier. I mean, Unity being, the game dev tool was instrumental, and, Unreal, all these engines 20, 30 years ago, that wasn't a thing. So
I've got a point as well. On that point, Heather, have you also seen some of the AI kind of art generation tools and some of the AI music generation tools and all these ways, just your average Joe can easily create lots of assets for not very much? I think that can definitely we'll see maybe some kind of leveling here.
And there's another part of that too. Don't mean to cut you off, but there's more guides out there on YouTube and shit showing people how to do this shit from scratch.
You don't have to go to university anymore, really.
No, you don't.
No.
And when I was younger, I tried to get into game development, and let me tell you, that was a long climb up. Learning programming, 3D modeling, audio engineering, learning all that shit from scratch back in the early 2000s was good luck. Have fun wandering around on a million and one different clickable buttons that you will have no idea what they do. Now I can go onto a fucking YouTube video and figure out how to do anything I need to within 10 minutes, and I'm done.
Well, and I don't know if you remember, but speaking of early mid-2000s, the advice was look into Flash games. So learning Flash.
Microsoft Paint, you would have all the addictinggames.com, stuff like that. And that was where a lot of people started. A lot of people started there. Newgrounds. Stuff like that, they all started there. And some of those games did end up blowing up eventually, which is good. It's good to see that you got that humble start stuff. But yeah, back in the earlier days, it was a bitch to make a game.
Yes.
I think, go back to your point, Heather, about small studios being gobbled up by larger studios. And obviously it's been going on for a while, but the pace seems to be accelerating somewhat. I think that's bad for our industry. Really bad. I think it's going to stifle creativity, and I think we had a topic on this later about sequelization, which is my problem with the state of play. That all the excitable games were it's like Street Fighter 6, Resident Evil 4 remake. There was another sequel in there, and it's the same phenomenon in Hollywood, in the sense that people don't take risks anymore, especially AAA games, because it's you need your quick and dirty win, year after year after year after year to get the money coming in, the rolling in, the shareholders happy, and I think
creates a level of stagnation.
Yeah.
Can I add something to the idea of sequelization? It's something I've just managed to realize quite recently is crossoverization. Now, remember when you were a kid and you thought, oh wow, wouldn't it be cool to like see Mario fighting Sonic, or Alien fighting Predator, or Robocop fighting Terminator? Now you can see all of that a lot. I mean, multiple games as well. You can see that.
fork knife.
And now I'm actually sick of it, because it feels like every other movie or every other game I play, there's some kind of crossover and it's being used to just make these people more and more and more and more money. And it's not for creating new ideas, new characters, new games, new mechanics, but it's just, here's the thing you like, let me insert it into this other thing.
But do you know what it is? Have you ever seen that South Park episode for the member berries?
It's that.
Member Terminator.
That's it. Exactly. All it's doing now is just weaponizing our nostalgia to make more and more money, and soon creativity will just be crushed into nothing.
So, to that, I actually had more experience with this at Bandai and toys than anything. And this is, so take this for what you will, but I was at Bandai, and this was before they lost the Power Rangers license to Hasbro. But it used to be, I know, but it used to be that
this is a dark rabbit hole you're going down.
It used to be that Power Rangers kept the lights on for Bandai, and now they have the BTS license, so who knows? They probably got some. That's probably what's keeping the lights on now. But so you have a property that you're just churning out because it keeps the lights on. You're sustaining your company. Now you can probably have other projects that are, you're taking a chance, right? So it's like you have this, for us we took a chance with Miraculous Ladybug was the property that I was working on. Or we took a chance with some other line, I forget, it was like some video, like some high-end toy collecting thing. So it's like, you can take a chance with things, but there are going to be properties that you release because it keeps lights on, right? So with your serialization of I think it was Street Fighter, what we were talking about last time, like, yeah, that's a keeps the light on property. And if you don't have those, you're not going to be able to pay people to keep your machine running to make other things. You're just unfortunately tied to some of these things.
Yeah. Kind of like what you were saying earlier about having the main job and doing your game dev on the side. You have to have the main job. You gotta have the main job.
And that's actually a segue into a point I almost forgot about. Now, John, I believe you were talking about the Last of Us remake / remaster. And you had a theory on that, about why that was being made, and I think it related to Heather's point.
Yeah, it's obvious that it's just a cash grab, innit? For funding their next project, fundamentally. Heather articulated and agreed with that point earlier. But just on how I feel about it, has the statute of limitations passed on it being released, it being remastered, and now it being remade in a space of 9 years. Don't get me wrong, The Last of Us is you've seen me on these podcasts many a times. I wax lyrical about it and I love it. Has it passed? No, it is nothing short of shameless. Shame on you, Naughty Dog. Was really obviously happy to see the graphics updated. They've not made any narrative changes at all, and it just felt a bit grubby to me, to be perfectly honest. That's just my take.
And I thought the statute of limitations hadn't passed of Resident Evil 4, and this is a game that it's not even 10 years old, like John says. It's and I hope this isn't an auguring of the future. Just half the games that are being made are just going to be remakes and remastered, so they've got enough money to make the other half of games where there may be some original content if we're lucky. I
have a question to that. Sorry, just real quick. What was the difference in your guys' opinion between a remake of this, Last of Us or Resident Evil 4, and the consistent porting of Skyrim?
That's an interesting question. I mean, in theory, porting is a good thing because it's allowing a game to be opened up to a wider audience. I think perhaps it is taking the mickey a little bit with Skyrim. That it's all the special editions, isn't it? It's like, this is Legendary Edition, this is Special Edition, this is the... really, it's just putting a new label on the same thing. And it starts to make you wonder, why do you keep kind of trying to like rehash the last? Oh, well, that's a bit mean. The last good game you made. Fallout 4 was okay. Yeah,
you see the same thing with Minecraft. Minecraft, it doesn't get special editions, but it's been ported to fucking everything you can think of at this point.
Yeah.
But it pays out for the long run because that's more. They have the crossplay. I think crossplay has a lot to do with some of the reason why we see a lot of these ports getting mass produced everywhere too.
If I can finish my thought with Heather's Skyrim request, I think that is the reason. I think that's the reason why people are mad. It's not so much the porting itself, and the same with GTA 4. It's the fact they're not making a new one, and it feels like they're stalling. And I know some people are mad about some of the rehash content, some of the lackluster stuff in GTA 4, and they're even more mad, and rightfully so, at Fallout 76 and all those broken promises. I think, it's only a real pain if it feels like they're stalling, really.
I think, like, do I really need to play Skyrim in a Tesla? Right, that is the question. Like, and I think
no, you need to play it on your smart fridge.
Play it on a pregnancy test.
Yeah, it's like, like no, it's just look. Todd Howard just needs to stop.
I think if you mix...
we've had enough of like Skyrim. I don't need Skyrim fucking Dynamax edition or whatever other way they're gonna like brand it like between now and the next iteration of it. Just like make a new game. We're looking forward to Starfield. That'd be interesting to see what that is. And if you're insisting on porting Skyrim, do not port Skyrim to another console or mobile device or pregnancy test or whatever, anything else you need. Just do something. Do another one. We need to see more of that.
So is that the same thing, I guess, for The Last of Us, where it's like it's just time for another thing then?
No, it's different for that. So it's the time. It's the same thing, and there's no major iteration with it. I would rather see them advance the IP. I just think the difference between that and Skyrim, in my view, is I think obviously it's on literally every single platform I can possibly ever imagine. The world has had enough Skyrim, right? We don't need any more Skyrim. It's been done, it's been memed on so many times. We've had it on, the Xbox, the PlayStation, every device. It's just let sleeping dogs lie.
It's the same. Another sleeping dogs. That's a good idea. It's kind of the same thing with GTA 4. They were like, "Hey guys, we released it on PS3, now on PS4, now it's on PS5. 3 generations of the same game." They're acting like they're celebrating this. No, you're illustrating how you haven't made a new one.
and when it did the PS5 reveal, GTA 5 was part of the reveal for upcoming titles, and I was just so fucking deflated. I was just is this? I mean, obviously I was excited for Demon's Souls, which I loved, which is a remake, and yes, it was member berries, and yes, I'm a hypocrite. I accept that, right? But I don't want member berries for GTA 5 because I've had so many member berries. I have a bitter taste in my mouth now. When it comes to GTA 5, I've had enough of it. Just make something new.
Yep.
Yeah.
You want to encourage them to proceed. Otherwise, like I said earlier, you reach that stagnation. There's no reason to make anything new. I can just keep making the same thing over and over again, and that is not going to drive profits. It's going to continue to stagnate your fan base. They're going to be fed up with your crap.
Well, right. The thing is, it might be profits in the short term, but it's the long term. it's eroding. You're
leveraging. Go ahead.
Here's a converse point, though. Right, so BioWare made Mass Effect, Dragon Age, 2 of the games I absolutely love, and then they did Anthem. right? Which was like a new risk, a new IP. So the risk is like obviously when you decide to like shift resource from keeping your lights on to trying something new, and it gets shit on. Like
I think that's a little different because I mean that's a different game in a kind of a sort of a differentish genre, really, isn't it? Whereas if they make
Destiny.
Well, yeah. Well, if they made just kind of like, say, another Dragon Age game or another... I mean, at least they're not just re-releasing the same game. At least say, like, it's a new story. And well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, you can kind of... I actually don't mind too much if you release a new game in a franchise, but maybe most of the characters are different. It's got new mechanics. It's kind of iterating on all the old good things that worked before. It's when you are just rehashing the same characters, the same game over and over and over and over again.
To that question, so I have my backlog is like anyone's backlog, it's massive. But I did not play a lot of PS3 games. That was kind of the time that I was playing more handheld or more PC. And so I have a ton of PS3 games I just have never played. And I'm like, yeah, one day I'll maybe go back to them. But then, like, have you actually tried going back to some of the older games where you're just like, man, this design did not age well, or these graphics are really hard to look at? Like, holy shit, looking at PS1 graphics again, it's hard, right? And so, like, my thought is, I actually didn't get to play... Sorry, just real quick. I didn't get to play Last of Us 1 all the way through. I didn't have the time for it, and I just found another obsession. So, like, hearing that it's going to be remade for, like, you know, current gen, I'm like, oh, this might be my chance. I might actually play it. Like, yes, it's only been a few years, but, like, for the people who wanted to play it but never got around to it, you know, I don't know how big that audience is. I really don't.
I don't know. I think there's a difference, like, you know, the Resident Evil 2 remake, right? You know, like, fucking Leon in the first one looked like an actual toaster, like, on legs. Whereas, like, the new one, like, you know, it's like, fuck, man, he's ripped. And, like, you know, like, he looks like, you know, awesome. But, like, you know, like, that's like 20 years, like, whereas, like, you know, Joel and Ellie in The Last of Us, like, you know, like,
that's true.
Like, they don't look like toasters, they look like people. Like, you know.
See, funny thing about your point, I feel like weirdly the PS1 has kind of aged better than, say, the PS3, for example, because the PS3, I mean, basically at that point, like, everything's kind of in a realistic style, but it just by today's standards, it just looks really low res, and the lighting's just not as good. Whereas PS1, they are building stuff with polygonal blobs, basically, and like maybe pre-rendered
it had its own charm to
it
because of that.
Yeah, and it's kind of like an entirely different style rather than just a much lower res version of the current art style, which is just straightforward realism.
Okay, yes, but there are some, and I agree with you. This is why I think like games like Katamari have lasting power, is because they never went for realism. They actually went for kind of their own style. But my favorite example of this is the Silver Case. It was, you know, Suda. And I remember playing the beginning level, not knowing what the fuck I was looking at, thinking it was like, you know, like it was a top-down orientation. Oh no, it's not. It's actually like straight on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. Like, it was so bizarre. So like, to me, that was like, oh my god, this did not age well. But like, I get it. Not every game looks like that. Like, Spyro looks fine.
Remember friggin' tank controls back in the day? Yeah, when you had to do the tank controls? That's another leftover kind of like that. That's why I think
Resident Evil 4 was one of the best games ever, because it finally killed the tank controls.
But, you know, I can understand both sides of that, mainly just on the fact that, yes, there are some games that you look at them, it's like, this should not have worked under any circumstance. But I feel like, as a product of its time, that should be accepted with a little more fluency. On the fact that they didn't have much, like we were talking earlier, they had to experiment, they had to try new things, because you weren't going to get anywhere if you don't. This technology is still really friggin' new. Yeah. They don't know what they're doing with a lot of this stuff. A lot of the times, from what I've researched on a whole bunch of different game development stories of, you know, lost arcs of video games that vanished over time, some of this shit is literally they're throwing darts on the wall and being like, well, let's see if we can do it. Sure.
Yeah.
And hiring people that aren't even qualified really to do game development. I mean,
no one is like, seriously, few people that actually make these amazing games, like that are really pioneering it. They're not all that qualified, like what you would call qualified. We're all learning as we go.
Yeah.
There's so much jerry-rigging in that whole scenario. Like, I've seen some crazy stories. Washing machines used as spawn points. If you delete this toaster from the game, it fucking crashes.
Oh, yes. Everything is paper clips in the prayer, you guys. You don't even understand. Like, Fallout 3, the train actually being the dude's hat, like, that is amazing. I love that. Like, that
you have to use what you have, because you don't have a choice.
And that's amazing. That's the best part. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, with some of these older games, yes, like, they were amazing for their time, but man, they are dated, and I didn't really love them that much when they first came out. I need them to be updated so I can love them now. Is that Last of Us? Maybe not, but hey, at least I might be able to play it.
Yeah, no,
I think I can see what you. I think sometimes like a remake or a remaster is kind of like having, say, maybe the same story but like better controls, a better interface. Maybe it looks a little nicer, so you can enjoy the same story, but it's kind of a bit more fun to play. I can get that. It is just like when me and John were saying, whereas it feels like it's not going to be different. I mean, The Last of Us remake, it is not going to be different in terms of mechanics. I mean, it's going to look marginally better. But other than that, what's the point? You know?
It's a lot different than, say, like Spyro or Crash getting, remastered. It's like a lot of people from those old games, they're like, I don't want to go out there and try to find a working PlayStation 1, a working disc that isn't scratched to fucking hell. You look at all those factors, like, I don't want to deal with all that. And then they release the remasters. It's like, this is a perfect opportunity for people that missed out on that to go enjoy it now. And not only that, like John was saying, they fix some problems that were with the original. They get rid of some of the more egregious faults with the gameplay itself, and as I said earlier, fix some of the glitches that were in it. So you're getting a better experience. It needs the revamping. Whereas with The Last of Us, it didn't need it.
Yeah.
It doesn't need it. I mean, granted, it's great that it'd be one thing if it was released on the PS2, revamped on the PS3, and maybe skipped the PS4 generation and you went to PS5. Be like, okay, yeah, that's fair. You skipped a generation. Go ahead and give it a remaster. But it's been one gen after another. It didn't need it. It still doesn't need it. Granted, is it great? Are they probably going to have, a couple extra features with the haptic feedback? Sure. If you haven't played it yet, I imagine that's great for you, but is it really warranted?
But I think, like, how many people, PlayStation owners haven't, I mean, there are exceptions, obviously, but, a lot of people have played that game. It's one of the most popular games on the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4. I just think they're relying on people that will just pick it up because it's like, it's the latest version of it. Maybe I'll play it again, some other time or something like that, and so on and so forth. What I wanted to say was the example she gave about Crash and Spyro. They're examples of brilliant, remakes, exactly what Heather was saying, bringing it forward for a new generation. Another type of remake where I think we talked about Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, where they paid homage to the original story, but then elevated it for a new generation was what I liked. The best AAA remake I've ever played actually is Final Fantasy VII. Mm-hmm. Now that was brilliant because they remade the game and changed it, and I liked how brave that was. That was very fucking brave.
And it is kind of in itself a sort of a commentary on remakes.
Yes.
Because they're almost kind of aware, the characters are almost kind of aware, has this kind of happened before?
Yeah.
I get a sense of deja vu here.
And it's a pseudo commentary on remake culture itself, which I absolutely loved as well. I mean, that was what they did for that game was incredibly brave, and they got railed by fanboys and girls, frothing at emulating this perfect unrealistic picture of replaying a game that they played 20 years prior on PlayStation 1.
People with the rose tinted glasses on.
Oh yeah, they had the member berries.
Yeah, and that's the thing is people who have played it, they played it in their childhood, they remember it a certain way because they remember it being groundbreaking at the time. And that's fantastic. I'm so glad you enjoyed that. I did that with like a great example right now is Dot Hack, the Dot Hack series.
Oh God, that's a good series.
Amazing, right? And not necessarily the newer one that was, they just ported it to the Switch. I'm talking about like the original, like Infection, Mutation,
the 4 that they had. I still have one of the PS2 games still sitting in my collection. They were groundbreaking for their time.
Yes, and I mean I have all 4 of them. I bought them back in the day, and I have the walkthroughs and everything. But the thing is like that's constantly one that we are begging Bandai and CyberConnect, like, please remake this one, please remaster it, please put it on the Switch, PC, I don't care, put it somewhere. And there's a lot of people who love the IMOQ, or however we say it, I don't know, I've only ever read it, where like, actually, if you remake it, that's going to be a big problem because the game was kind of broken to begin with. You're going to need to have a whole remaster. And it brings up an interesting question of, what, like, I don't know. I wonder if there really is a necessary pushback against remakes and remasters anymore. Like I'm at that point because, if you want to watch a movie, you go watch the movie. It doesn't matter when it was made. It might be a little bit dated, but the movie's right there. It still works. It's still a movie. You don't need to remake the movie. You're going to do the same thing. But the mechanics of a game, you kind of do have to remake. You do have to take what you've learned and update it, for newer things. Like you don't have to have save points anymore. I'm just going to auto save. Like, so remakes often, I'm at a point now where I kind of like them. Like I want to play it again, but I don't want to dig out my PS1. Like I don't want to deal with Parappa Rapper's horrible timing. Like I want
and your memory cards that may or may not function.
Yeah, I mean, so yes, I think that maybe the timing is not good for Last of Us. Maybe it's just that they just made Last of Us 2. They got the engine, they got all the models. They might as well just port it. Here you go. Here's some easy money. That's probably what they did. But like, I'm kind of also not against it. I don't know.
Well, yeah. So I think just to kind of knock this subject on the head, I think we can say remakes, remasters. Sometimes they're a cash grab. Sometimes a much needed update for a new generation, which you decide. Your mileage may vary. So yeah, it's time to get to the final portion of the podcast, which is what you've been playing, what you've been doing. So. I don't need to put on that accent, but I'm going to.
John
anyway.
is going full Italian. I don't know why.
Yeah, hold on.
It's me, Jonathan.
Hey, this freaking guy is a freaking comedian, okay? Hey. Right. So, first up, John.
Oh, I was worried you were going to ask me that.
You didn't study for this, man.
Yeah, not a great deal. I've been very busy.
You've just been playing Elden Ring all day, haven't you?
Well, I stopped actually because I did 200 hours on it.
There we go.
Yeah.
I finished the tutorial.
Yeah, I only just managed it. Yeah, I spent a good 200 hours on making sure I had the perfect representation of me. No, so I finished that, and after that, I felt empty and hollow for quite some time.
I hate that.
Yeah, it was just like, it was a bit like, I guess like, is it the Narcos meme where the guy's just like, he's just there like sat on the, I was just sat there on the swings, like hella sad. Not really a great deal. I got back into Destiny again, like I have done for the last 7 years of my life.
Did you ever get out of it?
Never got out of it. Like, what's that? I'm literally 0.2 of an hour away from. That's 20 minutes. I don't know why I said that. 20 minutes away from doing 1,100 hours on that game, which is appalling.
You're trying to catch up to me in my RuneScape time. That's frightening.
It's very, very frightening. I did revisit Cyberpunk because they fixed it. I thought I'd give that a go. Really boring, actually. So sorry about that. Besides that, not a great deal, I'm afraid. I'm planning a wedding.
Hey!
He's winning the game of life here. That's
yeah,
the
there you go, really.
Yeah, so sorry about that. Corey, what have you been up to?
I admittedly have not been very diverse. I've been running through Horizon Forbidden West because I such a big fucking game. I got to piecemeal that thing. Been playing that. Been playing Genshin. I have been tasked to. I've been kind of trying to chew through some of my Steam library. I picked up Hardspace Shipbreaker, and I've been playing through that.
Oh, are you liking it?
It's very relaxed, but it leaves enough room for errors that you can kind of fuck yourself, and it's funny sometimes to watch. And I greatly enjoy the puzzle aspects of it because when you're taking apart a ship, they tried to go for semi-realistic. So there are certain parts that it starts getting you towards, okay, here's how to remove a reactor. You're going to want to do it quick, or there goes half your ship, and you've lost your profit. If you accidentally forget to depressurize part of the ship, you get flung into a furnace, and now you're dead because you forgot to hit a switch. So it is very much a lethal puzzle. It is a puzzle that you just slowly unwrap, but as you're watching this thing come apart, there is something satisfying about okay, this goes here, this goes there. Get all your resource management. You got to make sure you cut the window out from the cockpit before you shove it into the processor. It's so procedural that it's something that you can do, maybe half an hour you could take apart a ship and then be done. You just log off and you're good. And that's what I love. I love little games like that you can just it's got a main campaign to it, but kind of not. But it's got enough diversity between the characters, the working off your debt by scrapping these ships, seeing the different ships and what you're supposed to do to take them apart. It's a fun little brain exercise kind of thing, and it's short, sweet. Sometimes the ship might take me 2 hours because I'm like, okay, this is a big complicated son of a bitch. It's going to take me a little while, and those are the times that I'm like, I'll save that for when I have more time to sit down and screw with it. But I love games that you don't have to sit there and go through this winding campaign. You can just pop on for a couple minutes, enjoy your little puzzly mechanic shit, and then pop off. I love games like that. And you don't see enough of them these days. But
I agree.
Other than that, yeah, I would, if you find it for, I'd say $30, do it. Worth it. $30 is absolutely worth the little experience that you get just going in and taking apart all these cool ships. It's like when you're a kid and you get your Legos built and then you're like, I'm going to take it apart and rebuild it into something else. It's that natural curiosity of taking something apart and figuring out how it works. It's fun. It's simple fun.
I love
it doesn't
that.
need to be. Yeah, it doesn't need to be anything more than it is. Other than that, I've also played. I had a fun conversation with Josh. It is funny because he suggested to me one of the games that I think he put it in the chat. It was called Moolander, and he sent it to me. I'm like, as a Midwesterner, I'm kind of offended that you think this would suit me. Fuck it, I'll take it. It's literally just you play a flying saucer and you take down alien cows and scoop them up in your flying saucer. I'm like, you'd realize that I have farmers just down the road that tell me about this shit like they think I'm actually considering them not crazy. This is insulting to my culture. Funny as hell though.
Bizarre.
It was wild. It's actually it was a neat game. I did enjoy it. It had some quirks that I was like, take it or leave it. But honestly, the art and the overall aesthetic and exploring a vibrant, lush version of Mars, it's like, this is actually pretty cool. It's not bad. I didn't think I would be playing a game about abducting alien cows in a flying saucer in my lifetime, but here we are. I'm happy. It's been a trip. But that's really the only game I think I've played for a Hateboard player recently, other than eating through Genshin, which continues to consume all of my time. And I dread MiHoYo putting out 2 new projects because that's between 4 gacha games already.
Oh dear.
They are going to devour my soul.
Oh dear.
But I am excited for them. I don't know if either of you two watched the trailers for Zenless Zone Zero or Honkai Star Rail. It looks good. I really want to play it. And let me tell you, gacha games are a lot easier to get into when you play them from the start rather than hopping in halfway through. I don't know.
Yes.
And I'm sure this will probably be a topic maybe for a later one, but trying to jump into a live service game midway through, no, it is not fun. You are staring at several different systems that they added in later patches that you're like, what the fuck is happening? I had that happen with Warframe, and I was lucky that I had somebody there to guide me through that shit. Because otherwise, you hop into a game midway through, and you're just staring at it like, what is all this? I'm getting 1,000 different messages about different rewards that I've obtained for no reason other than I exist. What the fuck?
Yeah.
But it's going to be a fun trip. I'm sure it will. But that's where most of my time has been going. I will continue to eat away on my PS5 at Horizon because fuck, that game is gorgeous.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's indeed. So, Heather, regale us, please.
So most of my time is spent just game dev lately. But when I do find a spare moment, I do try to. Not only do I have a backlog of just games I want to play, I have a backlog of Hey Poor Player games I have to review. So
I've heard about this list.
Fun. But so the one I've just, tried to find a moment to play in my spare time is actually Pokemon Arceus. I think that's how you pronounce it. Where like it's really nice to just kind of like pick it up, I've got 10 minutes. I'm gonna pick it up, I'm gonna like catch like 3 Pokemon. Okay, I'm gonna shut it off. So like that's really kind of just fun, repetitive, whatever. But for Hey Poor Player, I've started Card Shark by Devolver, which is I don't know if you guys have heard of it. Okay, but I'll just say it anyway. It's like a Baroque France era game where you are you're playing cards, but you're cheating at cards, basically. So like you're trying to help this guy. I think it was the Comte. I don't know. I don't speak French.
Compare? No, that's
COMTE.
No.
I guess.
French was the one language I did not get. Spanish, fine. French, no. But you're helping him cheat.
Croupier, right? It's a croupier, isn't it?
No, I mean the guy that you're helping. His title. It's, there's like Baron or like Duke.
Oh, right.
COMTE.
Comte.
Yeah. I guess. Anyway, so yeah, you're cheating your way across Baroque France. And then another one is Behind the Frame. It's I just pulled up the Nintendo summary. It's a vivid interactive fiction about an aspiring artist on the cusp of finishing the final piece of her gallery submission. And you're supposed to paint using the Joy-Con, or you can paint with your fingers. I have a Colors Live pen. So I'm like, I'm going to use this pen to paint. So I'm excited. It's got like Studio Ghibli kind of visuals. It's, probably going to make me cry at some point. So I'm excited. And then My Lovely Wife, I just got a code for that. I think it's by the same people who made My Lovely Daughter.
Was that a visual novel?
I believe so. I'm trying to go in blind on this one because I feel like it's better to just not know a lot.
I think I saw Josh mention that one at one point. I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah. I just got the code for that one. I'm gonna go in blind, see what it is. Looks really interesting. Indonesian dev. I'm really interested in the Indonesian game dev scene right now, so I'm like, sold, need it. And yeah. Other games will have to wait, unfortunately, but those are my 3. 4. I can count.
Okay. Well, so getting on to me, so the last game I reviewed for the site was a little game called Postal 4. And it was bloody awful. It was
that series went down. So sad.
That
was a good series.
I'm guessing you had regrets.
Yeah, regrets. Yeah, the game is called Postal 4 No Regrets, but I had many regrets. I had regrets from the first time I turned it on. Right, to start with, the game looks bloody terrible. But I could hear my CPU dying just playing it at medium settings. Now, like Red Dead Redemption 2, on max settings, my computer handles that just fine. But Postal 4, medium settings, and just kind of going from like you walk about 30 meters maybe, and then it has to load in the next bit of scenery, and it takes I'm no kidding, like north of a minute. To load in the next part. It's bloody insane.
Oh, no.
It's horrifyingly bad. And it just basically most of the game is doing these horrible, tedious, meaningless errands. Like you have to collect stray cats and stray dogs and put them in a fence. Except you can't see them. Sometimes they never spawn, or sometimes they clip into the scenery. Or it's horrible. And then I think that the nadir, was when I had to clean out a sewer. So I had to quite literally hold down the mouse button for 30 seconds on a shovel as he's shoveling a gigantic pile of shit out of these clogged pipes. And every time he finishes doing it, he says, "Wow, that's a lot of shit." And I'm thinking, my thoughts exactly. I'm trying to not press Alt F4 as I'm struggling to finish this terrible game. And you're trying to do platforming in the sewer, but there's no light and there's no contrast between the platforms and the horrible blackish... There's this kind of a blackish grey sewage and a kind of a greenish grey platforms, and it's like I can't see what I'm doing. This is horrible. Why would anyone want to play this? Why did you guys make this? What are you doing? And I think one of the last bits I remember was you're given a parking ticket, and you can pay it off by issuing lots of parking tickets yourself, going around the entire town, issuing parking tickets. And I thought, oh my god, I want to die. This sounds so boring. But instead they said, well, either that or you could just turn in early without doing the work. And when I did that, because of course I don't want to waste time doing stupid errands, the police station locked down and every policeman tried to kill me. But I just stood in the doorway and they all kind of ran into the door and kind of clipped right halfway through it, which made just shooting them very easy. And it's just like, thank God I have to play a little less of this terrible game. Yeah, it was terrible. It was very
What
bad.
the fuck?
Yeah, it's horrible.
I remember Postal 2 being so much stupid fun. What happened to that series?
I don't know what happened. Postal 3 was awful, and then Postal 4 was just like, hold my beer. I'm gonna be.
Did you make it unironically bad? Like, were they making a statement or something with it?
Well, I mean, Uwe Boll directed the Postal movie, and maybe they thought, well, now we got to make the game as bad as the. We got to make the game as bad as the movie, just to kind of keep it in trim.
Consistent.
Yeah, consistency.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And literally, I think the lead developer of Postal gets into a fight with Uwe Boll in the movie. He's like, "You ruined my game." And then I think, no, you ruined your own game, mate, at this point. Oh, God. Anyway, but yeah, the first Postal was great, and it's just, they've managed to fuck up something really brilliant, and it's kind of sad. Oh, well.
It is. The second one was so, like, mimetic in how fucking wild it was. Screwing cats onto guns to use them as silencers. I mean, you don't just come up with crap like that.
I mean, what you could do in Postal 4 is you can insert a grenade into a cat's anus and then have it scamper off after, like, someone and then blow up. And it's just like, this is just kind of horrible. I mean...
Are you sure you're not on some kind of watch list now? Like, is the government after you now?
This is just horrible. Like,
It's okay.
Oh shit! I forgot. Sorry, Heather. It's
you offended my shirt, cat.
Yeah. So anyway, it's kind of like it's trying hard to be edgy and cool, but in the same way, like a 12-year-old on a playground thinks he's the funniest, edgiest kid in the world, but he's just he's not. No.
Also, kind of like when Shadow the Hedgehog debuted on the GameCube.
Yeah.
You think you're cool, but you're.
I think as I said in the end of my review, it's about as much fun as watching someone laugh at their own farts. That's pretty much Poster 4 in a nutshell. Anyway, fortunately, that's not the only game I've been playing. I've been.
I'd hope not.
Playing a little game called Iron Fury. Anyone heard of Iron Fury? So basically, it's made by 3D Realms. It's kind of, it's the same retro kind of engine as Duke Nukem 3D. So lots of kind of 2D sprites on this 3D background, and it's kind of this crazy cyberpunk world. And just like Duke Nukem, the main character, she's a sociopath. She'll kill someone and say something like, "Don't think about the future, because you're not in it." or she'll say something like, "I love watching you die." Because that's what people did in the 80s and the 90s. They murdered people and just made a joke.
Okay, yeah, John's definitely on the list now.
Yeah, exactly. After this podcast, I'm probably on several different.
I think I can hear the sirens now.
Yeah. And unlike Poster 4, it's actually good and it's actually fun to play, and it actually looks nice and it runs nice, and I enjoyed it. Other than that, just been watching the latest season of The Boys. Anybody else? That's definitely going to trigger Heather in all kinds of ways. So, yes. Yeah, okay. All I'll say is it starts with, say... it's about superheroes, but some of them are a bit corrupt and evil, right? And they abuse their powers. And this season... Yeah. This season...
I can't possibly hear that!
This season, it starts with a man who can sort of shrink himself to to a tiny size. He, in a sex act, goes wrong. He inserts himself when he's in his little tiny form into another person. But he sneezes and accidentally goes to full size whilst inside this other person, with predictably horrifying results.
That's bizarre.
It is incredibly gruesome. And why does this... I just realised this makes me sound like a sick person. This entire...
You are wanted on some government officials, man.
I'm watching all this crazy stuff. I don't know why.
I'm sure that's on DeviantArt. I think that's the kind of thing that they went down was like...
I have no idea. I've had a horrible month thing. Just been watching all this messed up stuff. It's very popular.
Therapy, bud? Do you need to talk about your problem?
I don't know. Maybe I do. No,
I think the writers of that show, the producer, the actor, maybe... No, I'm just kidding.
I think there's a scene in the latest episode I watched where basically this one character's having a heartfelt talk. He's saying, "You know what, Butcher? I think I forgive you for all the things you've done. I just realised the other character vomits green goo all over his face, just very abruptly. And it's like, that's actually the least gross thing that's happened in the last 10 minutes. You know? So it's a disgusting show. It's also very clever. I'm underselling it a bit because it's actually very clever. It's kind of a commentary on the commodification of heroes and a kind of an alternate world where these heroes are made into these reality TV show stars when really they're quite horrible, much like people in reality, deep down. And it's very interesting, and it's not just gore and horrible stuff like I've made it sound. And that's what I've been doing over the past month, basically. There we go. Anyway, on that note, does anybody else have any final thoughts before we start wrapping this up?
Man, you left us pretty speechless.
Yeah, I know.
We're just all silent.
I know.
I'm listening for the sirens.
Yeah, okay. By some perverse coincidence, I've watched a lot of messed up stuff and played a lot of messed up games lately. And to be fair, Francis made me play Postal 4. Now, I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice.
Hey, Frank.
It is true. I feel like there was a period of time where even I was like sourcing just the worst possible games and like, oh, we're gonna make John play them. Like chair fucking simulator.
Oh, I was about to bring that up. No, that's the apex of shit games, isn't it?
It's not my fault. Francis, he made me play Wanking Simulator. He made me play
that one.
Chair fucking Simulator.
No.
It's not my fault.
Chair fucking Simulator.
Oh,
It's not my fault. That's what I'm going to say when when I'm in the white coat and they're dragging me off. It's not my fault. It was Francis. He made me do it.
Just slowly being like forced into the padded cell.
Padded cell simulator.
Yeah. Francis would probably make me review that next. Yeah. Okay. Well, on that horrifying note, thank you to everyone who has joined us this week, and I hope we will see you again next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.
Wait, before you go, be sure to check out HeyPaulPlayer.com for more HeyPaul content, and check out all our social media. And don't forget to check out my Twitter as well. That's me, Jonathan Trussler. Well, it's really the final goodbye now. Bye!